Hey, Excalibur Miniature War Games here, and this video will probably drop in a few days when I'm in the hospital. I'll be out of commission for about 2 weeks, so no battle reports for at least 2 weeks. So in the meantime, I made a few videos ahead of time before my hospital stay to kind of keep the channel afloat. Here's one of them. This video is just simply my top 5 Marvel Crisis Protocol characters that I bring to almost every single match that my son and I play. And this is not a tier ranking. I'm not saying these are the best ones you can get. I'm not saying they're more powerful than other characters. I'm just saying that aesthetically and the feel of the character resonates with me personally, and I almost always have them on my list. So starting with number 5 on the list would be Bullseye, the best 2-point character in my opinion in the game, my most favorite to play. Now remember, I grew up as a little kid seeing Bullseye in his old Frank Miller Marvel comic books, so he resonates with me. And I know he's not a powerful character, doesn't need to be. If he's paired with somebody strong, that parting shot and that I never miss can be so effective. I've used it so many times in games to my advantage, and I really enjoy playing him. Again, if you haven't checked out the old Frank Miller stuff from, 1982 or whatever it was, 80, go check it out. But yeah, Bullseye is definitely my number 5. So number 4 on this list is Ghost Rider, and I was never a huge fan of Ghost Rider from the comic books as a kid. I do like the character, the aesthetics, and all that, but what really got me Ghost Rider going in Marvel Crisis Protocol was the first waves when this game first came out. We started playing it. There weren't a lot of characters they had released yet that had like mystical attacks. My son was running Doctor Strange a lot back then, and so I got Ghost Rider to kind of counter that on my side. And I found it was so much fun playing him with that Chains of Damnation. I would just say, boy, Chains of Damnation, boy. Just, hit those dice, and it would drive him crazy when I would say it. And it was fun. And the pen and stare was cool when you could pull it off. But yeah, I really enjoy playing him. The aesthetics are great. He's a lot of fun to paint, and definitely my number 4. So number 3 is the Scarlet Witch, and not because I liked her much in the comic books as a kid. I don't really like the character that much from the comic books. I don't like her that much in the Marvel universe, in the movies. The TV show I thought was interesting, but nothing really to hook me. But in the game, I've had so much fun playing her. She has done so well for me. Every time I roll her out there, my son rolls his eyes because I always hit with her. And there was one game we were playing in particular, and it came down to round 6. I had the last activation of the game. I was down by 1 point. My son was holding an objective token. If I could somehow knock it out of his hands and pick it up, I would get the win. So he tried to run away from me, but I did a little move action away from her. I had to move. I was actually contesting or controlling an objective mark at the time, which would have tied the game, but I didn't want the tie. I wanted the win. So I came off the objective marker, did a move action to get really close to him. And then I spent power to throw something at him, whittled him down with some wounds, attacked him, was able to daze him. He drops it, and I'm just in range 1 with enough power to pick the thing up in the same activation, and I wound up pulling off the win. That was one of our most epic battles ever, and every time I trot her out there, she always does well for me, so she's usually in a list when I run it. So number 2 is Dormammu. He is such a great character, but not because he's 8 points, not because he's so powerful, but because he has Dark Dimension, right? Dark Dimension says, hey, we take anybody. You want to join Dark Dimension? Come on in. And guess what? You're going to get all this cool power. You get 2 power a turn now, but there's a price to pay for that, right? And if you get to 6 power or above, you start taking on wounds during the power phase. So I just love that mechanic that you're going to get something, but you got to give something back in the process. I love how he gets power from his own people suffering. That just is so cool. And sometimes tricky in games, when he's with lower point characters on his team. Typically, I run him with the Punisher or with Bullseye, characters like that can sort of synergize off a little bit. But yeah, wasn't a huge fan of his from when I was a kid. Now, I liked him from the comic books because there was that whole Dark Dimension thing when Paul Smith was I think was drawing Doctor Strange back in the early 80s. But yeah, but he's great in Marvel Crisis Protocol, and I don't always use him. Again, it's 8 points, and my son will purposely pick missions that are low in point value just to keep Dormammu off the table, just to stick it to me, right? But yeah, he's great. Love playing him, man, and recommend him. If you haven't tried him, give it a try. I know the price point is steep. He's like, what, $79 on retail, but he's so much fun to play. I still recommend buying him. And finally, my most favorite Marvel Crisis Protocol character to play is Magneto. He's not a villain, he's not a hero. He's a guy doing what he thinks is right based on what he sees in front of him. And I've always liked him from the comic books. He is the #1 character, I think, after Wolverine and Spider-Man that Marvel has ever created. He does not get enough love out there, or I think credit, but he's amazing. And what I love about Magneto is the fact that he was a survivor of World War II in the camps as a child. And could you imagine the emotional scarring that would have put on any small child surviving that? And of course, he was tattooed, and he carries that with him through his adulthood and that emotional, trauma. And then, of course, when he sees mutants being, hunted down in a very similar fashion, he leaps into protection mode. And in the end, really, it's a matter of perspective. Is Magneto a good guy or a bad guy? It depends. He's just trying to protect the people that can't protect themselves. And it's really a tough call. That's what makes him so dynamic, right? And he has worked with the X-Men. He's worked against them. And it makes him interesting and deep and dynamic. And on the table, at 6 points, yes, he has a lot to pay for. But he does a lot of cool things. And he's slow, granted. He takes him a while to get out there in the middle of the board, start wreaking havoc. But once he gets out there, if you have a lot of terrain on the table, he can start dropping on everybody's heads. And it's just so satisfying when you get that round, 3-ish, somewhere's around there, where finally get enough power built up to start dropping things and terrain on people's heads. And I just love doing it. My son, again, being Magneto as a 6-point player, my son will almost always pick the Crisis card that has the lower point in value, just to keep, again, like Dormammu, keep Magneto off the table. But I think he's worth a go. If you've never played Magneto, give him a shot. You might like him. I've always enjoyed playing him for those reasons. So there you go, guys. That is my short list of the top 5 Marvel Crisis Protocol characters that I enjoy playing the most, at least right now, of the ones I played. And again, if the character wasn't here, it's because A, I had not played them yet, or B, they just didn't make the list. So as always, thanks for watching. Now, I'll be in the hospital for the next 2 weeks, so I did these videos as sort of like some filler until I get back on my feet again to start doing more battle reports. So I will see you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.